Welcome to the second series of the Fitted Furniture Makers podcast. In the first series, we did a few interviews with other woodworkers, asking a set of standard questions to see what we could learn about their work and their life and their motivations. In the second series, we're going to do a little bit of that, but we're also going to talk to others in related industries, people that we might be able to learn a bit from, people that we might just find interesting as woodworkers. So today we're talking to Matt Marriott, who's a sprayer. He's based down in Essex, and he's got an Instagram page called Insta Sprayers. Now, I've never had as many questions for a guest. I put the call out with a few joiners, and we've got 17 questions to work through. But first, Matt, do you want to just give yourself a little introduction?
Howdy, everyone. It's Matt Marriott, Insta Sprayers, Marriott Finishes, and I'm a Larry Cockney sprayer.
we're going to find out whether we need to put a rating on this.
I'm going to try my best.
Well, Matt, so we'll get onto the questions soon. I just want to start by telling you very briefly how I kind of fumbled my way into spraying and still have loads to learn, because I think it's representative of a lot of people that will be listening to this. So I started off woodworking, realised I could offer the customer a bit of a better service that might win me more work at a higher price if I painted it as well. So I got rolling just Leyland's paint products. I see a lot of joiners getting into it and choosing the same product because it's quite cheap, quite easy. The acrylic primer undercoat is quite thick and doesn't raise the grain on the MDF too much. So I did that for ages, laying out boards. And I was quite bullish for years about, no, I don't need to get into spraying because this rollering thing's quite quick and spraying would be a load of hassle. Eventually got into it, got myself a little Erlex spray station, which is totally a DIY thing, which is a turbine. And again, thought, oh no, this isn't even any faster. And then slowly started to educate myself. And now I've got a spray setup, but my knowledge is very limited. And people send me messages on Instagram saying, what setup should I get? What tip should I use? And I just say, go ask Matt Marriott, because I would
cheers for that.
Him and tell you.
my wife ain't happy.
Yeah. So I think it would be good to start with an idiot's guide to the basics of spraying. And I know it's a big topic, but when I think back to all the things that confused me, and I couldn't seem to find anybody that was going to explain it to me.
Like, look, spray finishing is basically like magic. To get that finish to be perfect, there's a lot that goes into it. Even there's stuff that I do that is muscle memory. I don't even think that I'm doing it, and it does it. And these things are really important.
Could you start by giving us a basic overview of the different types of spray machine? I'm talking HVLP, turbines, airless. Is that an easy thing to do, just to summarise?
Well, I can give you my opinion on all of them. Like, I am a little bit of a snob. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, whenever I've seen LVLP units, they're normally cheap, low volume, low pressure. Like, I don't really even understand how that can work.
Well, that was one of my first questions as well. Is I heard of this thing and I thought that doesn't make sense. Yeah. How can both be low?
Let's just say water-based probably ain't going to go through it.
Okay. So, I mean, HVLP, I don't know. I felt like that was the established thing before I started hearing everyone use airless. HVLP, that's high volume, low pressure. Is that the term for your basic compressor-based
This is what I don't understand now. I always thought, and I'm right here, is that unless in America it has to be HVLP. So a pot gun, a SATA pot gun. I think people are using the term HVLP for a conventional setup now.
That's what I picked up. Yeah. Go on.
And to me, HVLP is a cap. Like, HVLP to me just means more CFM. So if you bought a DeVilbiss pot gun,
CFM is cubic feet per minute. Is that right?
But the difference on a DeVilbiss cap, you can a DeVilbiss gun. You've got loads of different caps. If you have a HVLP cap on it, it needs 16 CFM to pump the material up.
Is a cap the same thing as a tip, or is a cap?
No, a tip. There's a fluid tip, that screws in, and then you've got the cap that goes on the end with the little prongs on it. That creates your fan pattern.
Right, so
the
that's
difference...
sending out. So you got your fluid coming out the central hole.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep this like an idiot's guide.
Yeah.
And then you've got the cap, which has holes in it, which have air coming out as well, right? Is that right?
Yeah, and I just want to say quick, for people using water-based, don't even try. Like, you need a 2.0 or a 2.5 fluid tip. Otherwise, you're just going to have to thin your material down way too much. Like, we're talking water-based terms here. Can I say something? Yeah. I just use the things. Some people ask me about certain paints. Like, I use Renner PU, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't even really try and ask me too much more about the the numbers and stuff. Like, I was using AC for so many years. I couldn't even tell you what the hardener code is now. Like, some people, like Christian, he'll name these codes off like nothing. Guy? Yeah, he'll name the codes off like nothing. But with me, like, I'm a good sprayer, but don't ask me like the technical, like. Yeah, look, I know them, but like I'd have to go and look at the tin and do it.
Well, it's not what matters at the end of the day. It's getting the job done, isn't it?
Exactly.
And we all come at it from a different point of view. And I mean, I tend to be quite technical. I want to understand everything, but sometimes I get hung up on that. So it's not always the best approach.
Yeah.
But just so thinking about how I started out with this. So this Erlex thing, this crappy DIY thing, for certain things, it might be useful, but it was slow, and so that was a turbine. So again, I've been confused between, you've got your compressor-based setup, which I've heard called HVLP, and then you've got your turbine, which I think people have called HVLP as well.
Yeah, I think that's where people get very confused, and even I get confused with it.
Right, okay.
I think I've been a bit harsh on the HVLP, the turbine units. Look, I've got one sitting up on my bench over there. It was an Apollo one. When I first started using it, I didn't mind it. When I had AC, like solvent-based material through it, which is quite thin. I was using let's just say conventional, or however you want to say it, HVLP. I was using a conventional setup for basically 16 years. I'd used a HVLP unit, but for water-based, which everyone is going to really be using if you're a beginner, because you ain't going to have the facility to use solvent paints, you're going to need something to push that paint out. With, say, Renner or Sayalac, they're not formulated to be thinned down much. Like,
no, we have problems with that.
Yeah, you actually can't. They tell you not to thin it, and this is coming from the rep. So, all right, why are you going to thin something if it's going to cause you more bubbles? Like this, the actual finish is not going to be as durable. Like, you're diluting the product down. Just because it's water-based don't mean, like, really, to me, that you can have water. I don't personally believe in that, but you would have to put it through these machines.
Because these machines don't have the power of airless, which we'll get to, right?
Yeah.
That's the issue. They don't have the power to push the fluid through. Okay. And water-based, is that always thicker than either AC, PU, pre-cat? Is that the other type?
It's very high solids, water-based.
Okay.
People think I hate water-based. It's a wicked product. There's just reasons why they are thick. They're always thick. Apart from, say, another brand, which I ain't going to say, which is very thin. But I don't really understand that. And there's all different types of water-based. You've got water-based, then you've got water-based PU, and...
There's some clever chemistry going on, isn't there? I've heard some of them talked about as waterborne. Because I thought, how can you have PU? How can you have all these chemicals and water-based? But they can make it work. So they're not always completely chemical-free, and they're not always completely harmless.
Water-based, is not chemical-free at all. People, and we'll get onto this later, do not wear your mask, because water-based still has solvents in it. You try and spray... a Renner over the top of Farrow & Ball paint, and you see what happens. Like, it'll just melt it and crinkle it up. It's not because there's solvents in the water-based.
So these warnings that every paint supplier gives about, you must use our system, you must use our primer, our top coat, would you say you've got to always follow that advice?
Yeah, because that paint has been formulated for that system. Look, I've I've used AC. This is how I used to get some banging water-based finishes. I used to use AC, primer, and water-based on top. And I thought I'd done it as a quick. Someone wanted a job doing. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I didn't even know really any difference. I'd done this about 4 or 5 years ago, and then in the end, so that sounds extremely wrong. You've got a solvent primer with a water-based Renner going on top, or Fahrenball, or Little Green, whatever. So I was blagging it for ages. Oh, look at my water-based finishes. They're banging, blah, blah, blah. But it was a solvent primer underneath. And this is the thing with Instagram. People are doing that all the time. They just don't say.
So, okay, there's a contradiction. I was waiting for you to tell me it all went wrong and the paint crinkled up.
No,
but it worked,
doesn't. It works.
So
and I'll tell you what.
But it's a risk, right?
Do you know what? I say it's a risk. There's a company, Sherwin-Williams, massive company. They actually do a... Rips won't tell you about it because they might not be pushing it. But they actually do an approved AC primer that you can put water-based on top of. So that means you're not going to get any fibre raising. To me, that's a game changer.
That's the key reason, right? Because, so again, thinking beginners here, one of the big downsides of water-based paint is a wood-based product it's called hygroscopic. So the fibres, the cells of that wood, when water hits them, they want to swell up, which creates roughness and nibs, grain raising.
Yeah.
So you don't get that with non-water-based paint, right? So you can get a flat finish straight off the primer.
Without
all the denibbing that's
nothing,
water-based.
Nothing. Like I go above and beyond. Like people know I go.
I know.
I prep everything as if it's going higher gloss, but that's just me. But not even that. I'm even really getting paid to do that. When you're a perfectionist, like when you've gone this deep into finishing, it's very hard to cut back. I'm trying to cut back on certain things, but my finish has to be the same.
Bringing it back to the different types, if we're just starting with a bit of a beginner's guide, so we've mentioned HVLP. Don't totally understand it. LVLP, again, I don't know if someone knows what that's all about. Add it to the comments below.
They're normally cheaper. They're normally cheaper products. You wouldn't really see. To me, I've never seen a De Vilbiss or a Sata LVLP. To be honest, they're normally from wherever. Yeah,
and so then turbines, which we think are sometimes still described as HVLP.
Yeah,
they come in. I've heard of 2-stage turbines up to 5-stage turbines. I think my little Erlex is a 2-stage, and that's to do with the power of it.
Yeah.
So 5-stage is more like a professional. It's got more power to push that paint through. But it's still
people use them. They must be good. This is the thing, and this is where I have changed. Who am I to judge what someone else is using or doing? If it works for them, it works. I've got decorator sprayers that use it, and they love it. So they're on site. They're going to have much more experience than I do. So I'll go by what they say. It must be okay. But I do hear that people put water with it to thin it down. So then I think, no, I know something else that will do the job.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, the thing with thinning it down as well is once you get that primer even wetter and runnier, the grain raising works. That's
exactly
what we found. Yeah.
MDF isn't really supposed to have water on it. Right, so the nemesis is fibre raise. But is it really? Because say you've got, in MDF, you've got pitting, you can have scratches, blah, blah, blah. When you put that water base on it, so it's swelling, but it's also popping them scratches out at the same time. So it's not actually that bad. Like water-based, it smells beautiful. Like you can't go wrong. The Renner stuff smells amazing compared to, say, an AC, which will melt your eyes out. To me, the ultimate machine that I will personally use on site and in my booth would be a GXFF. Okay,
that's answered a few people's questions there and then. So what is a GXFF?
A GXFF is the Graco GXFF sprayer, airless. And I've wanted one for ages. I know Christian K Spray uses them. And quite a few people, Sprayaholic, they've all said they last so well. And with the FFLP tips on them, I've used the FFLP before with my Graco.
And I think that stands for fine finish.
Low pressure.
Low pressure.
And
okay.
I bought the Graco Ultra, the little handheld thing.
Yes, the one with the DeWalt battery.
Yeah, so for people as well that are looking to get into spraying, that looks like a good bit of kit. Look, it's cool. But
Peter Millard on 10 Minute Workshop on YouTube, he's done a few reviews of that. If anybody wants to look into that more,
yeah,
go on.
But it's I know again a guy called Sprayaholic. He's had his for ages. If you look after it, it might last. But for the price of that unit, for an extra £200, you can get GXFF. And to me, I used it the other day. You don't have to thin the material. You just spray it, and the atomization is beautiful. Like I've got a Wagner Cobra, a 3K bit of kit, and they can go for even more than that. And I wouldn't have even bought that machine if I had the GXFF.
Really? And how much does the GXFF go
about
for?
About £800, including VAT. And you could get them very easy.
Just to backtrack and talk about the technology for those technical people, we've touched on HVLP and similar systems. It took me ages to understand what airless is, and then when I heard about air-assisted airless, I thought, what on earth does that mean? And so I just kind of had to understand it. And so here's my interpretation of how all this works. Correct me if I'm wrong. So an HVLP system, like a typical traditional gun, what it's doing is it's passing air across paint, and out of that one hole in the middle, there's air and paint coming out together. And it's the mixture of air and paint that's atomizing it, which means turning liquid into fine spray, right?
Yeah.
The airless system, there's no air atomizing it because it's purely a piston which is putting hydraulic pressures, it's putting fluid pressure through an even smaller tip. And the atomization just happens because there's such a massive amount of pressure.
It's just smashing the paint out.
And it can't help but just atomize as it exits that incredibly fine tip. Because, I mean, the tip on my little Erlex thing, I think I did have to use a 2.5. And I think that must be a millimeter measurement because it was relatively big. And then when you pull the trigger, all you're doing is you're pulling a pin back that's just releasing that hole, like a pin inside. So the fluid and air comes around it and out. But yeah, the pump system, so that's the airless system, the trigger's just
it's either on or off. There's no leeway. There's no putting it a little touch. It is just boom.
Yeah, but then you control it with the pressure of the pump. So you've got a dial.
Yeah.
And
you've got your tip sizes and all that. But for me, really, if I was a beginner, going to take spraying quite seriously, want to get a nice finish, 100% Graco all the way. The GXFF, it is just, I was blown away. Like I was, my face when I first pulled the trigger, I was just like, what?
Is it quite a new product?
No. It's been out for a while.
I spent more than 3 times that amount when I messed around with the spray station enough to know, okay, this isn't going to work. I need to get serious. I had a rep out from a company I won't name, because this rep was saying to me, "Oh, you should spray water based," and he said to me, "No, you don't need a mask." And my instinct was saying, "That can't be right." And he did a demo of this machine, which was a Graco Finish Pro 395, and he was spraying it. I was thinking, you can't possibly be spraying all day, because I could already smell this stuff in the air. So that, I wasn't too happy with that rep. And also, I was sold a pretty expensive machine. And the reason I went for it was I'd educated myself about airless. I then learned about air-assisted airless. And the word on the street at that time was, if you're doing fine finish work, you want the speed of airless. So we're mostly doing panels, not little detailing and stuff. So airless applies it quicker at high pressure. But then the air assist is like you were talking about the cap earlier. You've got your cap where you bring in some air, not through the central nozzle, but around it, and it shapes that fan pattern, and you get more control. This is what I was told. So the reason I went for the Finish Pro 395 is it's got an onboard compressor. Because unusually, I'd never used a compressor. I just never used a nail gun with a compressor, that sort of thing. And I thought, well, I don't have to buy a separate compressor. I like the idea of this all-in-one unit that I could wheel to site. Cool. At the time, I thought I might do on-site painting. Actually, I never did. Always thought it was a big hassle. So I spent, it wasn't that much less than $3,000 for this thing. And it seems like I didn't need it. Because you said to me recently that you don't really need the air assist.
Yeah, this is what the reps are going to hate me saying this, but like, look, I nearly bought one of them Finish Pros the other day. Nearly spent $3,000 to do it on a job that we just bought the Greco with. And I'll tell you something, if you get them pressures right and you're just using a 310 or a 210 tip, you're going to get as good finish with that GXFF £800 as you would with the $3,000 bit of kit. And I've proved it. Look, it's right. You're a sprayer, whatever. You're learning to spray. No one, it's all about adapting. So I've got to use a conventional gun sometimes, like a pop gun. Then I go on to airless. Then I'll go on to air-assisted airless, which I use for my PU finishes and stuff. But the GXFF makes it easy. Like I sound like a Greco rep. But when something is that good at the price point, you cannot go wrong. And I should do an edit with my wife, right? Paint this unit, but I think she could do it, and to a higher standard. Use a good quality paint, and you're there.
Yeah. Well, so water-based or AC or PU, you'd use that.
Yeah, anything on site is water-based. But one thing, I went off subject a little bit there. Why I don't really believe in the air-assisted airless for water-based is the fact that I've got one of the best machines for it, and it didn't work. The Greco done it better. And that's with straight airless. When you start adding the air to it, it wants to dry the paint on the tip.
That's interesting.
Excuse me. It wants to dry the paint on tip. So every time you spray the door, you've got to dip your finger into some water and put some water on the end of the tip to keep it live. It just did not do the job for me. And you know what? I had nearly a whole year of adjusting it, doing this, doing that. It just did not do the job for me. And the Greco, why I've got a love for that Greco airless as well. Imagine it's just airless. It's just a piston smashing the paint through a tip, but it can atomize it that beautifully. People have said to me, there's other tips, other branded tips you can put in it that do an even better job. So it's a very good bit of kit for like when people start buying them hairdryer looking sprayers. I just think like, mate, just please don't waste your money. If you want to get into spraying, just get something that is gonna for £800. I think it's a bargain. If you're that into spraying.
Sure. Now, the airless system, I was told it's really good for speed of application, but also I think it's called transfer efficiency, like the amount of paint that actually ends up on the board rather than everywhere else. Now, am I right in thinking there's certain scenarios where, excuse me, airless isn't the best, and you might want to go for HVLP because of the speed. So say if you're doing a draw box or something like that, and you're trying to get inside it. Now I know you've got some pretty amazing skills where you can control that very high speed gun, but am I right in thinking that there might be a place in someone's setup for an alternative system that just puts things on slower, so you've got that more control?
Yeah. So with pumps, I think just the word pump makes it sound fast. When I was spraying with the GXFF or my Kremlin that I use for my PU, I dial that system in as if I'm using a pot gun. I don't actually go that fast. I could be going crazy with it, but I don't. I like to watch my paint go on.
You take the pressure down.
Yeah,
and so you can still do that, because does that not affect the atomization or anything? You can take it down quite a lot.
You'll taper it to what you want to do. Look, you still need to move and sort. Look, you still have to have some experience with it.
Yeah.
But let's not muck around. The conventional or the HVLP turbines, you're going to have maybe a little bit of an easier job if you want to start putting the finish on and look at what you're doing. But really, the Greco, right, whatever, the GXFF, it doesn't lay on as quick as you would think. You've still got time because the atomization is so soft. You've got time to look at it. The only thing I'd say with airless is if you keep pulling on and off the trigger, you can end up getting spits when you probably wouldn't with the airless, the HVLP or conventional setup. Okay. You always, really, with any water-based paint, and a lot of people don't say it, but you always need to keep the end of your your tip wet. Like, that's just what you need to do, because you'll get the build-up on it. And I don't really. Cause the spits, will it? Yeah. No, it causes the spits and it causes the fan pattern to get compromised. Always, once you get into a routine of it, have your little pot there, dip your finger in it, pull it on the end of the tip. Once you're about to spray, just wipe it, and it will always keep it live. You'll never get no blockages, because if you get a blockage when you're doing top coat, it's very bad. Yeah,
nightmare to respray then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thinking beginners again. So fan pattern. Fan pattern is, say, if you what we do is we've got it's 3 or 4 foot wide roll of brown paper.
Yeah.
Which we can just tear off and throw away.
Yeah.
And Brady does all the spraying at our setup. I mean, I really know so little in practice about spraying. People ask me, and it's funny because Brady does it, and he just tells me. So he'll do a little test, just like a little squirt, and the fan pattern. You're looking for this oval, this vertical oval, right? That's the fan pattern. And people talk about tails. That's when you've got a sort of stretched oval, but then you've got a blob at top and bottom.
Yeah.
And this is in one of the questions, which we will get to soon. Those tails, you don't want them, do you? Because they'll cause mines.
No, you don't want them at all.
You want a nice, even oval. Is that right?
Yeah, look, so again, say you got your airless machine. You'll just ramp up that pressure. Start down low, ramp, keep spraying it. And then once you see them tails gone, it's fine. That's it. With airless, once them tails are gone and you're happy with the nice, consistent fan pattern, that's it. Then take a picture of your settings or something and save it, and then you're there.
Because that should be the same for that type of paint, right?
But it all depends on temperatures and the actual pigment in the paint can make the paint looser. So you're always going to have to do a little adjustment. Even now, with my PU stuff, using my Kremlin air assisted airless, I'll always spray out the fan pattern onto a piece of paper, because why not? Why am I going to start spraying top coat and the fan pattern might not be right? And to be honest, it happened with me the other day. The fan pattern looked like it was all right, but it wasn't. I just about got away with it. But when it was flashing off, I was looking at it, I was like, oh my God, how have I done that? But it done the job and looked all right, but it was on the limit. And when that goes wrong, that's going to cost me about £7 to respray that door side again with PU.
Okay. Let's get on to these questions, because we've got loads to get through. So, first one, Adrian Webb Installations. Might be wrong.
Yeah. He's a member.
Oh, yeah. A member of the thing we won't talk about. He says, for me, I am all water-based, and I follow and subscribe to Matt. He says that. So I'd like to know some top tips on water-based. I spray airless, Graco GXFF. So he wants to know tip size, best paints, and he says, how do I know what pressure to set at, and then common errors? Someone said to watch out for tails and adjust if I got them, but I honestly don't know what they meant. Well, I think we've just explained that. He says, I'm completely self-taught and want to get better.
Right, so with the Greco GXFF, what I just use what tips I've got here. So or what come with the machine. So the other week on Insta I put up something of the GXFF. In that, I was using a 310 tip, and that done the job very well. And that was with a what paint was it? It was a Zoffany paint.
Never heard of
going through that. It's
That's
like
water-based, is it?
Yeah, it's water-based. It's like a little green. It's probably like a sister company or something to them. And it was quite thick. I actually thinned it down quite a lot as well. And it went through that 310 beautifully. If I was going to spray drawers or something like that, I'd go for, say, like a 210 or something.
Okay. I think we need to think of the beginners here with these codes. Now, I still get confused by these. That code, it's always 3 numbers, right? And we're just talking about an airless tip, which is a bit of metal with a tiny hole in it. The first number, let me see now. One of them is about the actual size of the hole. One is about the width of the resulting fan at a distance of 12 inches from the tip. Am I right?
Again, this is where it comes down to, I just use them. So for the big wall paneling I sprayed early this year, and I said I used a 413, people was like, whoa, and I was moving fast. That must be quite a big opening. But I've actually used a 517 for top coat as well. Look,
that does sound big.
I'll just use whatever I've got to do the job. All you need to do is watch that paint go on and don't drip it. And it's very easy to get sucked into, I need this, I need that. And I'm the worst. I am a bit of an elitist when it comes to spray equipment. But let's take it back. Now, I've gone from having a Wagner Cobra to a GXFF for water base. Really, a 310 will do the job for you. That's with a Renner primer or a Renner top coat. You can even heat the paint up a little bit, and you might...
Right, yeah.
Really, the 310 does the job. It just does the job.
I'm pretty sure that's what Brady's using. And I think he was using a 210, because there was a time when we were trying to find pretty much the smallest tip size we could find, because that seemed to be what we needed. But maybe it's his skill improvement and then the speed of application.
Yeah.
So I've just Googled it. The first number, so say we're talking 310, that number 3, for some reason, you double it, and then that's the inch size of your fan pattern when it hits something 12 inches away from the tip, that is roughly the optimum distance, isn't it? When you're spraying, you want to hold your gun about 12 inches away from the surface. So that's the first number. Second number is the size of the hole. I don't know what the measure is. Doesn't matter too much. Okay. So 310 is going to give you a 6-inch band of paint, right? So
which is fine for any size door. For a drawer box, I put an upload up the other day. It's too big. But where people will get confused, and I get confused. I was a conventional guy, pot gun guy for 16 years. So I'm still learning with all these things. But you'll get a Wagner or a Kremlin tip, fluid tip, which is an 06114, or you'll get a Wagner. So where Wagner do a 310, they also do an 09 40 or something like that, and it gets really confusing. It even confuses me.
Yeah,
it just gets a bit too much sometimes. That's why I think really, and even with the distance away from spraying a panel, yes, there's a certain distance, but all guns are different. So compared to say a GTI, a PRI Pro like the Vilbis gun, I'll be say 12 inches. If it was a HD advanced pot gun, I'd be even closer. It's all about so I teach people on the internet, but you still got to do your own thing. There's a limit to what I can teach someone.
Well, there's so many factors, and we're still finding this. So the board, the substrate, is a big one. Especially with water-based, to the results you're going to get regarding grain raising. Then you've got your temperature conditions as well, and then the technique of the operator. And and then there's things like so we were for ages putting down first primer denib, second primer denib, etc. This guy called Valentin Chardome. He's probably
I love him.
Yeah,
mate.
He said good things about you as well. He's one of your members, I think. So he was saying to me, because they use the same paints as us, which is the Sayalac paints. And he started putting down two primers before denibbing. And when we first tried that, it didn't work for us. And then we tried it again a couple of months later. I don't know what we did differently. We thought, we see what he means. It was less work, and we were still getting a really good finish. But it's like there were different variables going on that we hadn't quite grasped. So
Well, I just want to say my thing about water-based paint. I think this will help people, and this is what I'm all about. I've been there where it's very hard, and if people have been following Insta Sprayers for the last year, they'll know my love and hate with water-based. And
Yeah.
right, so if we want to get technical about it, and Jones on Instagram, he said
John
this
Jones.
as well. Yeah, really, he was using a lower quality MDF on a job intentionally as well, and he was finding he was getting less fibre raising.
Oh, really?
And he put it up in his stories, and it was really good conversation. But so my theory is that I used to try to do water based. I'll sand it to 320, then I'll prime. I'll get major fibre raising, whether it's with any brand of water-based paint. It just will happen, the fibre raising, if you haven't put a solvent primer down first. And my theory was, right, do you know what? I ain't doing that now. If you sand it to 120 or 180, then put your primer on, there was less fibre raising.
Well, that's very counterintuitive.
But why is that? Because you keyed up the surface. If you'll know yourself, and Brady will know this, when you paint the MDF door, it's open because you've cut into the board, and all the material is open on the edge of the door.
On the edge.
When you paint it, it goes very smooth straight away, especially with a Finzer board. That stuff, one prime, and it's coated.
It is an amazing board. I did mention it earlier when I mentioned substrate, because I don't want to sound like I'm sort of constantly banging on about stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is, when something is that good, it's good. And to me, and I've said this to Finzer, and I've said it to the over stories, Finzer board could potentially change the water-based industry just for the board, because it raises the fibre less.
It is so much better. I mean, I think we owe it to listeners to mention this, because if you're trying to get good results with water-based, and I think 90% of the people asking these questions are water-based, then the single biggest factor will be choosing the Finzer Fibropan Hydrofugo boards. Possibly there's others out there that was good. I've heard someone saying the Cablewood Industrial is good. I've not tried it. But this board, I mean, I went from Medite MRMDF thinking it was the best, because I couldn't find anything else from my local merchants that were better than the Medite. Finzer is just way above.
For water-based, it kills it.
For water-based,
I haven't tried PU. I've heard some other things about it. But look, can I say something? People, you go try it yourself. From my experience, I documented the whole thing up in the stories, and the best board for water-based is the Finzer Fibre. I don't even know what it is. They sent it to me, and it works.
It's a weird name. It's Spanish. It is worth us clarifying. It's not just any Finzer MDF. It is that specific board, because I got a ton of black core MDF from Finzer. It's melamine faced, and it is the worst MDF I've ever used. I was quite surprised, because I thought Finzer means good quality MDF, but this stuff, it's like a sponge. Like the offcuts in the skip, the next day, if there was a little sprinkle of rain, they're falling to bits. So just to say, not every Finzer board is the same, but this Fibropan Hydrofugo is the good one.
But one thing I will say, and I didn't know it was, I know we keep going on like Finzer, but look, like if people know me, they know I don't actually care about all this. So I'll big up any company that I think's got good product, and their melamine board. Right, so I done an edit where I wanted to keep the melamine on one side, spray the front, and spray the edges. So I just taped up the back. You would have seen this. And when I sanded back the edges, so it looks like the door's sprayed properly.
Yeah, I did see you doing that. Was that a Finzer board?
Yeah, I didn't know it was a Finzer board. I was sanding it. I put the primer on the edges, and I was thinking, wow, there's no pitting already. And then I found out it was Finzer.
Was this one of their range of 8x4 sheets that they're promoting? A few people listening to this would have got samples. What's it called now? 1220.
It was just a white melamine standard thing.
But 18 mil.
Yeah, like if my dad was here, he would know more. But look,
but just to say, that's a different product again to this black core
Yeah.
stuff I'm talking about, the sample I got of the 1220 range, which is brown core, was a really nice MDF as well. So yeah, sounds like it's a good one. Okay, so you were getting a good spray finish on that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And the edges just come out like it just seems better than it. MRMDF. MRMDF. Where I get it from, Medite, whatever. It is Medite because I can see it on one of my bits here, but it's I think the quality of that MDF used to be better. And when you hear from, you might have heard it, like, because you work with the wood more than I do, really, where they make it in a certain country, if they think they can get away with the less packing materials in it, they will. It's only when you start complaining, because this MDF now is more pitted, it's more liney, the resin on top isn't there. It's just
we started getting little purpley spots coming through on a few batches.
Yeah, no, we all had it with water-based or PU. It happens, and look, like in the board, there's always been MDF is MDF. You know what I mean? There's bits of metal in it sometimes, bit of rubber, and to be honest, we're all looking for that perfect finish, but sometimes it ain't going to be perfect. You might get a bit in your finish. Oh
yeah,
no!
Something out of your control.
It's
screws it up.
Metal in the wood. If you haven't personally dug that out, that's going to be there, because wood and metal are two completely different materials, as you know, and it's you're never going to sand back down that metal, like, because the wood around it's going to wear away first. So this whole idea of perfection, sometimes it is out your hands. The job starts when you're collecting the board, bringing the board in, not getting it all wet, and do you know what I mean? There's a lot to it.
Sure, yeah. Back to the questions. Now, I don't know if you're hearing any background noise. I'm recording this sat in the van and it's raining, so apologies if anybody can hear that. So, Mark Wilkinson, Home Hero, that's his business. He's on Instagram as well. He's just saying, beginner's guides for people who are starting to think about getting some equipment. He says, I'm worried that I'll start investing in systems that I'll just not use in future. I'm guessing your answer is get the GXFF. Is there anything else you'd recommend at an even lower price point just to get started?
No.
Really? No. Okay.
No, you could try the Ultra, but look, is
that a Graco thing?
Yeah, the little handheld thing.
The battery one. Yes, you said that's £200 cheaper, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but like really, the GXFF, even if you wasn't going to use it as a pressure washer or something, put some water through it and clean your drive or something like.
Oh, because I mean, for people just starting out, £800 is still a big upfront investment.
And can I say something for the people in a small confined space? Really, you ain't going to want to be using a turbine unit, and you ain't going to want to be using, definitely not, a compressor setup, conventional / HVLP. There's too much overspray. The airless...
Oh, really? Is that right? So it's almost a safety thing. So the airless actually is, because of the transfer efficiency, you're not going to fill the air with the spray in the same way?
No way.
Interesting.
No way.
That's a good tip.
And if there was overspray, they can message me or someone else, and we'll tell them how to get that overspray down. The other machines are going to cause more overspray.
Overspray is an interesting subject. So I've, with the help of Josh Marlowe, shout out if he's listening, JM Joinery, we've just dismantled the lean-to on my workshop at my house, because we've moved to this new workshop now. Yeah, and I mean, overspray, so we didn't have a proper booth at all. This is another funny thing where people ask my advice on booths and fans, and our setup, it just didn't work, really. There's a little fan in the corner. But the overspray was mad. And I thought, what are we doing wrong? I spoke to a few people and I said, well, no, that is normal. Even in a professional booth, you will start to get paint caking on the floor. Well, is that right? I don't actually see that in your booth.
Well, because the paint is so built up on the floor.
Oh, really?
Look, can I say something? Okay. If I was doing it again now, like, my booth looks dirty sometimes, but I do put water on the floor. I do.
Yes.
Look, if I was doing it now, I'll do it differently. That's a whole different conversation. But it's very easy to keep your booth clean. Like, if you wanted to keep your floor clean, just get some Proplex boards, put them down, put some duct tape on them, and then you and then hoover it up after every time.
Brady's going to be so pleased you said that, because he's done exactly that. He's just off his own bat. I wondered though, because what that's doing is there's a coating of the paint now on that, and it flakes when you walk on it. And I'm thinking, was that a bad idea? Because we're introducing more contaminants into the environment then, aren't we, if that's flaking off? I thought,
What,
is it
on the
maybe better
floor?
to keep on the floor? I thought, is it better to keep
But
a concrete type floor where the paint's just going to dry and hopefully not flake up? I don't know.
Yeah, look, you have got some serious fans, but I don't
Yeah.
really. It shouldn't be going on the floor like that. Really, it's sort of drying as it's hitting the floor. One thing I will say, which we've just bought, they're not cheap, but in industrial Hoover. So just hoover it up after every before you go to do your top coat. Hoover it up, and you always have a clean booth. Make sure. My routine now is blow before any top coat. I'll hoover the floor, blow all of my spray room and drying room down with an air blower.
Wow.
Then I'll water it down with a airless unit, and then you're always keeping it clean.
Okay, because that water will dampen down any.
Oh
dust
yeah,
that
the
remains.
water. I would be my finishes would be nothing without the water going on the floor and on the walls.
Okay. All right. Next question. I think we've answered it. So Michael Miller, he says, "What's your recommendation on the best water-based setup for someone looking to get started?" He says, "Would it be air compressor with gravity feed gun, etc.?" You're just going to say GXFF
Yeah,
again,
because what you got to remember is I
we've
had
answered
used the pot gun for water based for 4 years, and it don't really work.
because it can't get the pressure to properly atomize that thick paint. That's the issue, right?
If you use a 2 or a 2.5, it will, but it's to me it's still a bit slow. Like the airless unit is the best.
Right. Okay.
By the way, people have
Jason...
issues with air with water based as well. So really, with airless, and there's a whole massive discussion on that. We won't go into it, but that people are saying that airless is better without any air. Water based is better without any air.
Really? Well, because the air somehow messes with the structure of the paint or something?
Yeah, they think it can cause bubbles, but again, people, there actually is. If you're getting bubbles in your finish, one, heat the paint up. Two, they're actually, the reps don't tell you this, and you'll find this interesting. There's a thing called a defoamer, so that you actually put that in your into your pump, and it should eliminate the bubbles, and pour the paint slowly into your hopper or whatever, and because you don't want to trap that oxygen in. If you just dump it in, it gets trapped.
The GXFF, does that have a hopper as opposed to my the one I've got? There's a pump that you have to dip into. You have to dip the pump itself into a tin underneath the thing.
And the GXFF, look, I sound like an advocate for Graco, but look, it actually it primes on hardly any paint, and it holds
that would be a benefit. Yeah,
it holds very little in the hose as well. Look, I'm just blown away at how good it is. Look, it's been going around for ages that it's good, and that's the truth. It's good. You're going to use it. You ain't wasting your money.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the thing with the pump system where I thought, is that a downside? Because it does hold quite a lot of paint in its pump and its tubes and everything. Yeah. Whereas when you've got a pot gun, all your air tubes, there's no paint in them. You just got the paint right there at the gun in a pot. So I've been thinking, should we get a little HVLP type compressor setup just with a pot gun, just for the occasional odd colour, or occasionally we're just spraying. We might just be doing one oak top on an otherwise like grey painted job, and we just want a clear finish on the oak top. Would you say that, if I got a secondary gun, would you still just say get the GXFF, or would you there's a place for the pot gun?
The ideal world, and you everything that I'm saying, you're going to get them, because you've actually just invested a lot into your place. You've got a nice big booth there now. You will end up getting a proper compressor, and you will be getting a pot gun, because they're needed. They're still needed. For the beginners, straight away get the airless. But
that's interesting. That is interesting that you're saying so. Beginners, because I kind of would have thought your advice would be beginners get the maybe cheaper pot gun, but you're just saying no, get the thing that's going to do the job better.
Because you need, if you don't want loads of overspray, you're going to want the HVLP cap. But if you want the HVLP cap, you need at least 16. Well, you need 20 CFM compressor. Them compressors already cost a few quid. That means you're going to need air filtration. To be honest, you're going to need an air dryer.
It's a bit more complex, isn't it?
Yeah. Really, the pot guns or the conventional setup, That's the most expensive bit of kit.
Right. Okay.
100%.
Okay, because of everything else.
Let's just say, right, a compressor. It all depends where you are as well. I've got a screw compressor that was £4,000. The air dryer,
Wow.
£800. The filtration, £300. Another filtration, £300. Another filtration, £300. Air hoses, all the piping. It's the most expensive.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Okay, question from Jason Hook. Temporarily forgotten your Instagram account, Jason. Sorry about that. He says, I have to spray in my workshop with a small collapsible booth. It'd be good to get any advice on preparing the workshop, like reducing dust in the air. I guess most of it's common sense, but it'd be good to hear any advice on combining a workshop and a spray booth. And he says, pass on my thanks to Matt, as I love his Instagram.
Yeah, nice. So we got to remember is my shop is in a bespoke furniture shop, so there's dust everywhere. If you're making up a collapsible booth, you know what? There's nothing to say that ain't going to work. What you want to make sure is that you need to make something where there's no air sort of coming into it. It's not the easiest thing to do. But say you've got a collapsible booth, you really it still needs to be enclosed. But where you've put your bit of tarpaulin or something down to the floor, sprinkle a bit of water around the edges so any air that's coming in will get touched by the water. So it's keeping the dust down. Make sure the water on the floor, a little sprinkle, goes a long way.
Okay. Sounds like that's the main tip there. I mean, so some people just use an open-fronted booth, just like some kind of extractor and sort of not even an enclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a battle then with
I've got guys in Canada that do that and still get good finishes. I think you can get that Molyneux's he's got like an air filter system, air makeup unit or something like that. And that's quite cool because it's sort of filtering the air a bit. But anything, I personally would never have an open booth because I know what I'm looking for. Look, I'm a nutter and I can't have any imperfections.
Yeah, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah, and really, look, even down to the way I prep myself for the booth, I don't want no bits going in my work. And you've always got that possibility. But again, if there's a little bit, when you're spraying your door and you see a little bit of crap in your work, give it that extra hit with a gun, engulf it, and it should be okay.
Oh, really? What? So when it's still wet and you see something like a little speck,
hit it again.
Put more paint on. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. It's good.
No one says these things because people don't like talking about bits on Instagram. But look, like everyone's going to get a bit. You see that bit, hit it, one bit of paint, and engulf it. And
so you're pushing it under the surface. You're not trying to sort of spray it off because that.
If you really want to be like a surgeon, you can try and pick it out, but then you're still going to have to re-hit over it. With water-based, you can get away with murder.
Oh, really?
Because it stays wet longer.
Right, yeah. All right. Another question from Gary. All he says is, what paint gives that wet look when finished? I don't know if he's talking about gloss. Do you know what he means by that?
No.
I'm
like really, if you want a wet look finish, you're going to be using a 90% sheen or something like that. But a 90% sheen, PU, AC, water-based, always will shrink back and end up looking like 30-40% sheen. Near enough.
Really?
Yeah.
So how do you get, I know this is a very specialist area of spraying, how do you get really high gloss?
I don't think we've got long enough for that.
Okay.
But can I say something?
Finish, it's the polish, right?
The real high gloss, and a lot of the people listening to this won't even understand it, right? You've got to use your polyester primer. That there, you're going to need a conventional setup with air-fed mask, everything. There's no playing with that stuff. You breathe that in, your teeth are falling out. You're going to have that as your primer. Then you're going to do a PU top coat. Then you're going to put an acrylic top coat on top of that. Then you're going to polish it back, Rolls-Royce style, and with a machine polisher. And it's a lot of hard work, and you need to charge mega bucks for it.
Okay. So 3 different products. What? Just
all Renner though. Renner, Sayalac, Milesi. They're all very good.
Is that's just to do with the flatness of finish, is it, at each level? Is that why you go in for those particular
So everything
products?
that I do with the search coats and that needs to be applied for gloss. There can be no imperfections, and you'll be taken down a peg when you start doing gloss. That's why I put all the effort hard, because I know what it looks like if you put one coat of gloss over something. So if you convert that into what you're doing with a matte, you know what the true finish looks like. That's why I go search coating everything and that, because I've looked.
What is a search coat? Is that black stuff?
The
that fills
dust.
the pits. Okay.
It's like chalk, and you rub it on, and it emphasises any imperfections, and it stops you over sanding. It's
I see.
To me, it's essential.
I've seen you use that on Instagram. So it's a dust. You just sort of rub it on, do you?
You just rub it on.
And then what, you sand until you can't see any of that black?
Yeah.
So you got to the bottom of the pits.
All that black comes off, and if there's a little dink or a little scratch, you'll know you need to keep sanding it, or you have to recoat it. But if you've laid the primer on properly, you can just sand it out. It's because imagine putting all that hard work in and then spraying it, and you've still seen that dink or scratch, like when that could have just been sanded out. Even if I'm doing a white job, like the stuff I just done for Banks, I put black guide coat over it. But what you got to remember is all that black is coming off, so it don't really make any difference. Okay. They come out nice.
And is that a product that most paint suppliers will sell? Like
3M. I use 3M. There's Sia versions, Fast Mover, blah blah blah. They all do the same thing. Or what I used to do, and it's still the best method, is have dead stock of paint and spray a very thin, light coat over the whole door. That's the best way. And then you just sanding off that spray, and then it emphasises any scratches. To me, it's critical. I think it's 100%.
What, of a different colour? Just a spray?
Yeah, just some dead old paint that you ain't using anymore, and just spray it over it. But look, can I say something? I do go over the top with everything. People might not need to even go that nuts.
Yeah,
but
a lot of what you're talking about here, I mean, there's limits to what people can do and what they can price for at the stage they're at, certainly in terms of booth setup and everything. So we're figuring out what works for people. Next question. Right, so this person wants to stay anonymous. They've got a few questions.
Oh.
Number one, what would you do differently in your business if you could rewind the clock? And then question 1A, they say, starting to start their spray business.
Well, you know what? This is what I've learned a lot lately, and never put all your eggs in one basket if you're going to start this business. Always be... I thought it was to run a business or to have a business, you have to be good at your job. It ain't just about that. You need to learn business and I'm a hard worker, but I'm also lazy. So I was just rolling with the work, not really trying to get any, I was just counting on this one company, and now they're gone. And I would always put the effort in and don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How did you go around? This is question 2. How did you go around to get your customers? Dave?
Right.
How did you get your customer base?
You know what? The most important thing. So that client that I was talking about there, they would have gave me about, let's just say 300 to 400 grand's worth of work in 4 years. Something like that. So to me, for a one-man band, it was nice work. And how did I get that? Well, we just sent we had nothing. Literally, I had nothing. Trailing through Tesco's, getting quids out of shopping trolleys, meaning nothing. So what did I do? I went and got made leaflets, and so I posted them around, and I put them in a wood merchant's place, and that's how you get the work. Slip them 50 quid, spray them a table. The forklift guys will be giving your leaflets out, and that's how you get work. That's how I got that contact.
Okay. And how did you get into spraying in the first place?
Well, my dad's has always had a bespoke furniture business with a spray booth in it. And I used to do the prep, which I was really bad at, as in sanding the edges, thinking they're all straight, and they look like they was 45-degree handleless pull open door. and then I see, so I used to prep everything. I might have primed stuff, and then Dad would always do the top coat. And I thought one day, I always remember the first thing I sprayed, I'd done it. I was really happy with it. And then there was an old school guy. He's like specialist finishes. That ain't his name, but that's what he does. And he brought me right down. He was like, "Oh, look at that! It's really orange peel." I was like, "Oh." But yeah, that's how really I got into it. And it's cool, man. It's a wicked job. Get into it's art. I was a graffiti artist. I've always been into art, so spraying is perfect for me.
See, I thought your dad was just a sprayer. I've seen your dad. He pops up every now and then on your Instagram feed. But it makes sense now. So that woodworking workshop you've got the booth in, that's your dad's woodworking workshop, yeah. Okay.
We was in Northwest London for a very, very long time next to Brent Cross. And then we moved to here. But we never got to set it up 100% how we wanted to. But yeah, he's been doing it for 40 years. Okay. He's wicked. Like he's really good at. He's dyslexic and all of that, but he's very good at what he does. Very good. But again, it's just time and passion for the job.
That's interesting. Yeah. So it's not just hard work; it's passion, because passion will drive the hard work, right?
Oh, I'm an artist. That's how I see it. That's what I'm doing. It's art, and it's the same with him. My dad is a proper designer. He doesn't look like it, but he will not replicate someone else's thing. He can't just go on Pinterest and copy it. He has to do his own thing. That's why he don't work well with designers. He has to do his little bit to it, so it don't work. But that's where I get my thing from.
Okay. So question 3 from this person was, while working with your father, at what point did you realise you were good at spraying and that's what you wanted to do? I guess you kind of answered that. So you were just helping out to start with, were you? And then you got a bit of a passion for it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, whoever does spraying, it's only now, after a year of filming myself and that, I think I'm actually an okay sprayer now. I ain't just a sprayer. I'm a prepper. I'm a veneerer. I'm everything. So it's not like it takes time to build up confidence, and spraying is about confidence. If you've got confidence with that gun, you're a very good sprayer. That's all you need.
Okay, that's good. Question 4. No, 6 questions from this person, by the way. So question 4: site spraying or workshop spraying?
Well, I am a workshop sprayer. I like spraying in my workshop. I can spray on site, but you're going to get the best finish in the booth because it's a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And I won't be spraying PU on site. I only spray water-based on site.
But if you could choose, you'd rather spray PU. Is that right?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. All right. Question 5: what made you create InstaSpray as certified? And then in brackets, keep up the good work, by the way.
You know why I created InstaSpray certified was the fact that people was asking for it. And
this is a member only sort of training platform, right?
Yeah, and look, what people got to remember is this is with the effort that you're putting into Instagram, with what we're doing now. Like, we should be working, but we're doing this to make content for people because they ask for it. And someone made up a GoFundMe page, and I didn't know, and I was really humbled by that. I thought that is so nice, but then I wasn't comfortable with it because the way I am, that ain't how it is. But when people are asking for it, and it's got to be. To me now, I still talk to people on Instagram. Everyone knows that. Do you know what I mean? It's only the fact that if I'm putting up a serious edit where I should be spending time with my kids or my wife, who I'm surprised hasn't divorced me yet, I need to start. It needs to be paid for. And Look,
I know.
and that's just
And
what it is. And the whole thing,
yeah,
if people actually read the dreaded word, buy me a coffee, they'll see my intentions for it. It ain't forever. It's so I can get a nice setup to build more content with. And that's the truth. There's intentions behind what I've set up there. And look, it's the same. I know we weren't going to talk about it, but it's you either like it or you don't. You can't please everyone, and everyone has their right to say whatever. But people should be praised. I think you should be praised as well for. And this is, I know people are going to start thinking, oh, he's bum licking him. What? No, I make content. You make content. We're still your life is busier than mine. So I don't even know how you're doing it, but it's like praise people for the hard work.
I always say to people, look, it's because I got Brady. People go, how do you do all these things? I say, well, Brady actually does a lot of it.
I need to talk to Brady. He seems like a really nice guy, and he does a good job.
He does a good job. He does a great job. And I must also thank my wife, because I understand just what you said about your wife. Because working all the time or thinking all the time about work is not the best thing for home life.
But for them down the line, it will be, because there's no doubt about it. Look, everyone needs confidence in that, but we will be successful. When you're putting this much hard work in and money into it, it will. No matter what's going on in the world.
What, for me now, it had better be, because it is scary, the money that we're putting into this new setup. But you've got to speculate to accumulate, haven't you?
Yeah, and like really, you have to be positive.
Yes, you're right. And connecting with others is really good for that. That's one of the great things about Instagram.
Yep. And look, like I put up a story the other day, and it ain't me lying. Like, if people have watched Insta Sprayers for the last year and see the way I've been through the stories and that, it's I started to hate it. I started to hate Instagram, but now really, you look at it from another angle. I was the judgmental idiot that would be commenting and getting jealous and stuff. But look, see it from a different angle. See that? Look, this guy, he's filming himself. He's spraying. We're all on there because we love it. Like, it's the same with the people that are paying for the content. They love it. So the respect. Everyone have respect for each other. All right, this guy might be using like, when I think about myself, the things I've said, I just think like, are you a dick? And I don't want to swear, but you're an idiot. Like,
well, we're all at a different stage, aren't we? We're all at a different stage, and there's people you can be sort of interacting with other people that are doing stuff at a similar level of experience to you, and then there's someone else, and you see their work, and you think, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. Then you think, well, I was there a few years ago, and we're all at different stages. We're all learning,
but you don't know how hard it's taken that guy to get that gun and get that unit. So people, when they're leaving their nasty little comments or something like, no, and I won't stand for that. Anything like that goes down on Insta Sprayers now, they get blocked, deleted. They don't even, like, I can't entertain that. The negative, like, no one, any negative. And there's a guy like last night on there goes, oh, I use a 2.5 mil sound. That's cool. And then he started trying to say that, oh, I must be wrong because no, it's all good, man. Like, if it works for you, it works for you. Like, don't, no one should be judgmental. Everyone should be just praise each other, be nice, because the state of the world is in at the moment.
Yeah, we've got enough to worry about.
You need just be nice to everyone, and that's coming from me. And I ain't the nicest person in the world, but at least I've realized. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're a good guy, Matt. I think everyone that follows you sees that. You don't go giving out all this information and spending all this time without having a little bit of heart. So, yeah.
It's passion, man. It's passion.
Yeah, passion. It is passion. And I wanted to say something as you're talking there. Got me thinking, passion, it can come and go. And you've got to, sometimes you have got to step back from Instagram or whatever, because in a certain frame of mind, it can really send you downhill if you're struggling. And you're seeing all these other people that seem to be flying along and doing great work, because of course they only show you their good work usually. Then it can really affect you. Now I found, I mean, setting up this workshop, spending loads of money, wearing myself out. I got to the point where I did not want to hear from a customer. I resented customers getting in touch, which is mad because I need the customers. But like a lot of people at this time with coronavirus and everything, For some reason, everybody seems to want fitted furniture, and we're just inundated. And
Yeah.
it's fantastic, but I just couldn't cope. I didn't have the headspace to deal with another inquiry
'Cause you're
alongside
human.
setting this thing up, etc. Yeah.
And you know what? Like, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, it's like I was sick of it all, and I almost wanted to walk away, which I couldn't do. And I just said so my wife, and we've got a part-time administrator, I said, look, I probably ought to be delegating this anyway. Look, now's the time. Can you just deal with all the inquiries? And I just don't even want to hear about them. And if we lose them, I don't mind.
Yeah.
And then just yesterday, I feel like we've broken the back of the workshop setup, which is a big task.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I got a call come straight through to me from a customer, and I realised I had a bit of passion back, and I was looking forward to making and in the new setup, getting this person a really good design and a good finish. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, the passion's back. But it will come and go sometimes.
Yeah, and when you start getting imperfections in your spray finish and you don't understand how they got there, let's just say. But this is why when I got into this spray stuff back then, there was nothing, man, no help at all. That's why I know I've nearly been in tears over this because it's so frustrating. But now, if someone's saying, all right, I've got bubbles in my finish, I've got this, I've got that, at least I can give them a list of things they can do. Yeah. And it normally does help.
Because you've been there.
Because it's money, time, and people ain't got time to be wasting and not and losing money on paint at the moment. If I can help them, then I'll help them. And that ain't me. And that ain't me charging for it either. That's just over Instagram. That's why when I put out my stories, look, I lost the love for Insta Sprayers a bit before, but I'm back on ball now. So I will be posting up the stuff that's going to help people. Do you know what I mean? I can't comment back to everyone, but I try. And really, I think we need to talk about this as well, is with spraying as well, this is where you've got to be, and any woodwork and that, you need to make sure you go out in the sun, because I turned into a nutter. And
you mean, okay, so don't you just get stuck in your work.
Spray your walls white. Spray your walls white. Don't let it all be MDF engulfing you. Brown MDF. Okay. Make sure, because if you're we got up today and it's dark. We got to work and it's dark. When we get home, it's dark. The sunlight is right there, but you won't go out into it because you want to do this work or you want to make this content. But it ain't good for you. Like it wasn't good for me. I've turned it round now, but a lot of men that I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of them are suffering with depression, man. And with the coronavirus and people just working, going GSI, burning candle at both ends. And for the possibility that this thing might come and end it. But look, you go out in the sunlight, make sure and come off Instagram sometimes. Like, go watch Social Dilemma on Netflix and understand. It's not after watching that, I've
not heard of that. I don't know that actually.
Oh mate, you have to watch it. Anyone on here, because I know men, they'll message me, how comes he's getting this good finish but I'm not, blah blah. Look, Instagram, you only see what you want them to see. You ain't gonna see the bit. Like I am pretty sure I'm one of the only people that would say bits in the spray on Instagram, because Instagram is a business. I understand that, and that's what I couldn't get my head around. All this promotional stuff being force fed to you all the time through certain guys, and you think, oh, how comes they're getting sponsored by Tessa and I'm not? Blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? And look, now it's all. See it for what it is. Use the platform as a tool. Don't let the algorithms win you. And just treat it. Look, me and you, we're two completely different people. Yeah. And look, we're on here. We've been talking for I don't even know how long now, because we have a passion about the work. Use Instagram as a tool. Instagram is one of the best tools for business, work, a portfolio, and just see it for that. And enjoy everything and everyone on there. If there's any negativity, block them, mute them, or just don't bother. Like, just use it. I know someone that's just come off there. He's a carpenter, and I really, really, I ain't gonna say his name, but I really respect him. He's wicked, and he's just come off there because of people and stuff like that. And look, and the time he was spending on it. But
it can be good, it can be bad.
It's addictive, man. Like, people don't like to admit it, but of course it's addictive.
That Social Dilemma film, I just googled it. I heard something about it on the radio. So it's talking about
people are losing their
mental health effects of social media. Yeah.
I think it should be mandatory for people to watch it to understand what is happening with when you're picking up your phone. It's a wicked tool, but you need to understand. And once you've watched that, you won't be picking your phone up when you should be talking to your kids. There's a time and a place, and that's coming from me, someone that was on their phone 9 hours a day just on Instagram. I've cut it down to under 2 now, but there has to be a limit.
Yeah, I love how you summed up the antidote to this. Get out in the sun. I didn't know if you meant that like
no, that's the truth.
Or whatever, but it's deep, man. I like that. Okay, so question 6. If you remember, we were working through questions from somebody anonymous. Question 6, and we've still got loads of other questions to go from others. But by the way, people always say to me, these podcasts can be as long as we like. Yeah, people stick it on in the workshop. People don't mind.
That's what I do with podcasts. I love them.
Yeah. So, hypothetical question: if Symphony/Renner stops doing PU and water-based paint, who would be the next manufacturer you would choose?
Oh, shit. I could say something, but I've tried to get Malaysia products through Mylands. They long me off. Mylands, again, they do more emulsions and stuff, so it's a bit hard to get Malaysia product. I probably would go Movac, Sayalak. Sayalak and Renault are basically the same company. If you look on the internet, you'll see they've got they've got the same logo. Like,
really? So do you think so? Your Renault paint? I've not tried that because we
try Renault hardener in your Sayalak.
All right. Okay. So do you think it might be literally the same paint from the same factory?
Look, if I can get it the right way round, Renault. I think Sherwin owns Sayalak.
I think so. I'm pretty sure that is right.
Sherwin-Williams is big. They don't own Renault, but the Renault guy worked at Sherwin-Williams or something, or went there. Renault's its own thing. I think Sayalak is owned by Sherwin-Williams. Sherwin-Williams paints wicked as well. Okay. If we always talk about PU water-based, the AC Sherwin-Williams was it? I don't think Sherwin-Williams Becker Chroma. I think they bought out Becker Chroma or something. But that AC is really, really good. The only thing about AC, it melts your eyes. You can't fit it for a month. And
well, really, you've got to leave it curing off for a month.
Yeah. Well, look, if you don't want to get sued, people get we fitted it sooner and stuff. That's why you've got to be careful. I've got wardrobes at home, all in AC. 2 years down the line, they still smell. Oh, really? And they was opening component form in my workshop. So look, in the end, I was AC for 14, 15 years. Now I've gone completely over to PU. There's a reason why I'm using a PU.
I see a lot of people on Instagram using PU. Loads of people seem to be moving to that.
To me, I was late on PU. London, when I was in London spraying, like, PU's the standards. AC you get used more up north, etc. But PU in London was the standard thing. Like, to me, I was a bit inferior using AC because it is an inferior paint to PU. Really?
So AC is a 2-part product, right? You have to mix it, then it goes off. You've got to use it.
10% hard. It's normally a 10-to-1 mix.
Yeah, and PU, is that a single component product?
No, it's 2-to-1. Okay. With my top coat that I use, Renner, is to 1,000 ml of paint, you put 500 hardener. So that stuff's going off quick.
You see, I was really interested to see in one of your posts, or maybe it's someone else actually. Anyway, so someone was saying that PU is easier to clean up than water base, and that blew my mind because one of the reasons I went for water base, loads of reasons, was I didn't want to mess around with solvents. I thought, how do you dispose of them?
Yeah.
And all that. I thought, well, water just comes out the tap. Surely it's going to be easier to use water-based. And then, of course, there's all the smell and the safety and flammability and everything. But someone said, oh, no, it's so much easier to clean, to flush out a PU gun. I couldn't believe that.
Well, through my Wagner that I've just converted to solvent because it was just water-based, it flushed through very quick compared to water. It must be the thinners that strips it on the inside and pulls it all out. But that's why you're paying money for these 3,000 plus bits of kits. The fact that there's not many pipes on that Wagner Cobra. You've got the hopper that goes straight into the system like a pot gun. I can actually put a DeVilbiss pot on top of that unit if I bought the adapter. So it primes on very small. So that's why you're paying the money. You're only going to use a very small amount of thinners to flush that machine out. Where with the Greco, it don't take much. With them GXFFs, you can use solvent through it or pre-cats and stuff. But anything with a hopper on top of it is very good.
Okay. All right. Should we work up these questions?
Yeah, go on, man.
I'm going up a list. Where am I? I think I might have missed a question. Frank, did I say Frank Frost? He says before I knew about air-assisted airless sprayers, I bought an HVLP Apollo with a 5-stage turbine.
Yeah.
So I would really like to know how best to use that for painting MDF. Right. So he's not asking what to get. He's committed. He's bought something. It's a 5-stage turbine.
Yeah.
How should he best use that for painting MDF?
What? I'm going. Is it water-based paint?
Right. I don't know. I guess he's just open. All he's saying is this is the machine he's got.
I'm literally trying to look at my Apollo sprayer.
Oh, you've got the same thing, have you? HVLP Apollo with 5-stage.
So what? So this, I bought it from Morel's.
Oh.
Bear with me. I'm just looking at it. Really, then you just plug it in. You get a nice consistent spray out of them, but they just ain't refined. They just ain't refined. Look, again, I am probably a bit elitist. I've been in it long enough to know what I'm looking for, but they can give you a bit more of an orange peel finish. But I don't mind orange peel if it's consistent. Really, again, it's very hard for me to say what's the best way of using that machine because my temperatures out here might be different. Humidity, the paints, really.
Yeah. Well, I guess what we can say to Frank is get the choice of board right, because that's going to delete a lot of the factors in getting the paint right. Yeah,
buy a Finster, sand the edges to 320. Whether you're using, get all the saw marks out, sand them to 320. Make sure you've broken all the edges nice. Use a bit of soft backing paper. Make sure it's all nice before you start priming it, and it'll come out fine. Just adjust the guns however you want. If it don't feel like it's the fan pattern's big enough, raise up the fluid, raise up the air. It can sound very technical, but all you need to do is just get stuck in.
Yeah, trial and error.
And do it. Like spend a bit of time. Like don't obviously practice on jobs, but have a little test board. But everything. The finish comes down to prep. We all know that anyway.
Yeah. And if he's not limited to water-based paint, what would be your number one paint recommendation? Renner PU, is it?
No, only if you've got an air-fed mask. They say to me, do you know what? This whole thing about water-based, AC, I would wear an air-fed mask for all of them because no normal mask is airtight. And I'm going to be extremely honest with people and why I was a bit depressed for like years, I think, really, is the fact that these paints had ruined my face. Where you've let them go on your face so much and it's starting to cause red patches, spots when you never had spots, and dermatitis and rosacea. That shit don't even go. So you need to look after your face and your body as much as you can, and don't kill yourself for a client because they probably ain't paying the money that you want for it. So if you can down the line get an airfed, you want a full face mask, as in it don't have to be air-fed, but make sure your eyes are covered. Like I'll put up a post later of the yellow patches. I'm only 30.
I've seen that.
It's disgusting. Like every day I have to wake up and they don't go. Like that stuff's etched into my eyes. And it ain't just that. It's in the wood, being in a wood workshop, dust causes it. So I'm only 30 and I've already got that. So, and look, I'm going to be honest, I never used to wear a mask for a long time. And the way I breathe is crazy. So, look, if I can say to anyone, wear a mask with whatever. And I think Waterbase is what done it to my face as well.
Oh, really?
Waterbase, there's a certain paint brand I ain't going to say because I can't be harsh, but it's a Waterbase PU. You let that stuff go in your face. It's disgusting.
Do you think you let your guard down because it was water based? Do you think you were thinking to yourself, I don't need to protect myself so much? If
you sniff PU, if you ain't got a mask on when you're spraying PU, you'll feel drunk. The other day, I had it was a little mask, little standard mask, but with the filters on the side and stuff, and I was falling over in a booth. I was drunk.
Okay.
I was high off the PU. Yeah. And with the water-based PU, just because it's water-based, they ain't... If it's a water-based PU, it's got PU in it. I don't see how, but... Well, I can't see how, but it's not good for you. It goes into your skin and it wants to pull out and it feels disgusting. It's just like you need to be... If you're a young man and you want to go out and look good in that, you don't want to be having your face open to chemicals.
Worth it, is it? It's not worth sacrificing yourself.
And you don't know how your body's going to react to it.
Yeah.
The other day,
long term, it could build up, couldn't it?
There was a thing on Channel 4 the other day, or whatever it was, or whatever channel it was, where this guy had been mucking around with formaldehyde, just formaldehyde in a cleaning product, and you see his skin now. It created the skin irritation, I forgot what it's called, eczema, and it went all over his body. And he was a man of colour, and he was scratching so much from the contact dermatitis, he was itching away his colour. And I thought it was so sad. And look, but I was mucking around with formaldehyde. AC is full of formaldehyde, and you don't know how your body's going to react to that. So make sure your hands are covered. Your face is covered, and if you can down the line get an air-fed mask. Don't kill yourself.
That's a good message. I'm glad you said that. On the subject of safety as well, I think we need to mention if people are getting an airless system, that can be very dangerous because you can inject paint if you put your hand in front of that fan pattern, it can inject paint into it pierces your skin. Right? That terrified me. When I first heard about that, it terrified me.
Greco, one second, let me just get out of the way. Greco on their machines used to have it was pulled like a doctor's number saying, look, if you get shot with this, you need to go to a doctor ASAP because you inject that paint into you're dead.
They can't get it out, can they? It's straight into your blood.
You're gonna have to filter your blood and it's just nuts. Like it
could be an amputation.
Always, if not
worse.
Always use your trigger guard or the stopper for your trigger, and don't because I'm like that. I'll point the gun to my face without even recognizing. Always put that guard on. If that's going to take out your eye.
Accident, doesn't it? I know. And that's the big difference with, say, HVLP or something like that. You could waft that over your hand or something, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
And if you're used to using that, you just think, well, spray, it's like, playing with a garden hose and putting on the fine mist setting. It's just, it's just this light mist. But airless is like a piercing jet.
Yeah. But like it's the... What you got to remember about paint is it's like a plastic. Like, why are you going to want to breathe that in? Like, I don't know whether this camera, like, now I've said it, people can maybe realise when I'm talking, like, it keeps me up at night. Really, sometimes, like, you just wear your mask and it's easy. I've stressed enough about it now, but it needed to be said. Because it's not. I'm glad you said it. And you know what? Someone said the other day, I was spraying in someone's booth, who I ain't going to say, and a guy that sells spray equipment, goes. So this guy's got an air fed mask, and he bought it off this certain company, and he asked them, "Do I need a air dryer for my air fed mask?" And the guy goes, "No, you've got your filtration." Well, he's wrong. And this guy sells stuff to massive name, and it's wrong. Yeah. If you buy your air fed mask, you need an air dryer. Okay, so that's another £700-800 because you need that air dryer. Really, every workshop needs an air dryer if you've got air tools anyway. But be careful. When you're about to buy something, get loads of other people's opinion as well. Don't just go by reps or because what you've got to remember, they're there to make money at the end of the day. So,
okay, right. We've got a bunch of questions. Let's try and storm through these.
Let's go.
So, Adam Hassan calls himself the Fat Twin. He's a furniture maker. He says, as a beginner, all I have is a Fuji PaintWiz Max HVLP sprayer, which I've only used for a shed. Is this suitable for getting started, and is it good enough to finish MDF? And he also says he's just subscribed to your Instagram and YouTube, and thank you.
Oh, wicked. Yeah, cheers. Look, if it's a water-based paint, you might struggle. If it probably is going to be a water-based paint. With, say, a little green paint or a Farrow & Ball, I'll tell you my mixing ratios here. So to get that through a 1.4 tip, which is very small, I used to thin little green down to with 40% water.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. But anything over 40, you start getting imperfections. 40 is the max, 30 will still be okay, etc. Because it's like paste. It's that thick. So try that. Try 20. Try putting it in a one of them crock pot things with them. What are they called? Them things you.
The things where you time how long it takes.
Just heat up the paint. Just heat up the paint. Like put it in a. I've forgotten one. Put it on top of a radiator, man, and stir it occasionally, and get the heat into it. The heat into the paint. Get the consistency there, and that's better than. Diluting it with water.
That's a good tip. Okay, I suppose if you got a bigger tub of hot water and put the
put it in that. But the only thing it dies off quite quick. The heat. But like there's I don't know why I can't say what they're called. They're like little cookers, and you we put your stew in it, but you can actually put pots in them, and it keeps it at a nice temperature.
Oh, like a slow cooker?
Slow cooker, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
But there's other things. Like a beer brewers, they have a belt that goes around the tin. Like, get one of them, strap it around the tin and keep the paint warm.
Oh, good tip. All right, next question. Matthew Ralph Burton, it goes by MRB Carpentry and Joinery. He says, although I agree a sprayed finish is far superior to hand finished, once sprayed, if the customer marks, chips or scratches the finish, how do you go about sorting it?
Respray. Yeah. It depends where it is. If it's on the edge of it, you can, like the break of the door, you can tape it up and blow it in. Use your finger to soften the edge and it'd be fine. But look, can I say something as well? I have massive respect for the hand finishers because I've done hand finishing myself. But the cheating method where I'd spray it on and brush it off. But massive respect for the hand finishes. When you get a nice hand finish, people think I'm all about spraying it. I like every finish. Yeah. And a good hand finish is beautiful with shaker and certain things. Not on modern contemporary furniture, but on shaker and stuff is beautiful.
Well, it also gets around these issues because there's a few parts to Matthew's questions. It's mainly around these issues of if you damage that pristine finish, it's so hard to correct. So adding those brush marks in is quite a good trick, right? Because then you could possibly get away with brushing in a defect.
It's cut a long story short. So I used to spray my water base on with 1.4 gun, and then I would hand finish it off. So lay a thin mist of paint down and brush it off to get that perfect hand finish look. And I used to have to heat the paint up for about 4 hours, thin it down a crazy amount, like 40%. And after 4 years of doing that, and on the last job I'd done for that client that I'd done loads and loads and loads of kitchens for doing that method, I used the GXFF. So with airless, it's got the droplets are going to be bigger than a 1.3 conventional pot gun. But I just sprayed a light coat over the door and brushed it, and it worked perfect. So anyone that's going for that style, do it and message me and tell me what you think, because it just works really good.
Okay,
and
so that's
when
just
you,
on the final coat.
On the final coat, so you spray your colour on like you normally would, like a normal top coat. Then once that's dry, you can do that, put your hand finishing in it.
Right.
I used to use Purdy brushes because I used to think they clean out better and etc. But it just worked, and it looks beautiful. The whole job, a real hand finish, keep them lines nice and straight. I ain't talking about just slapping it on either. I'm talking about every line perfect, and it's really, really enjoyable. And the client sometimes wants to believe that it's a little old man in the workshop or on site hand painting it, and sometimes you've got to give them what they want. So it's a good technique. And if you know the client wants a hand finish on site, you can do that yourself instead of paying someone to hand finish it, because a hand finish still charges more than a sprayer.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. And a couple more from Matthew. So how can you guarantee the finish, and how long for? Do you offer a guarantee on your finishes?
No, never.
Good idea. Just don't get into
why?
it. Yeah. I know. I've thought that. I've considered it as a selling point. Then I thought, well, I've never actually been asked for it, so why back myself into a corner? If something goes wrong, I do everything I can to fix it.
Yeah.
But why back myself into a corner like that? Yeah.
Do you know what? If I was I've got a business with my dad doing it all, but I wouldn't even make a kitchen out of spray. I'm not talking myself out of work, but I would use corian or something else on the doors. Spray is too it's not durable enough. It don't matter what product. I use the best product on the market, but you're still going to scratch it. If the client goes in there with a knife in the hand, zoom, right down the drawer front, that's gone. There's nothing protecting that.
But of course, you can't be blamed for that.
No.
He also says, when the finish starts to look past its best, how do you refinish a spray finish if you can't remove the item from a built-in position? Have you ever had to do that? Go refinish something in situ?
Yeah. And this is something I ain't proud of, but it ain't the fact I was using a HVLP sprayer. The only time I've really used that HVLP turbine unit, Dad had made a job 15 years before. In Belgravia, so we're talking about a really nice location there. It was a big kitchen and all modern style. Yeah, so I went back there. It was all done in AC previously, and she wanted a refresh, so we went there. We actually took all the doors off and resprayed them in our booth, and then the carcass bits that you couldn't take away, and panels that you couldn't take away, sprayed it on site, and sprayed it on site. And you now what I'll do all the doors in PU, and we'll actually take the GXFF to site, and we would have pre-primed the infills and stuff or any scribes, and we will just get the colour matched to water-based, whatever the colour the PU was. So say all white, Farrow and Ball. We'll spray the doors with PU, and then we'll spray the bits on site with
Okay. Just so you haven't got the chemicals on site.
No, I don't believe in any. Look, on that Belgravia job, I sprayed AC on site, no extraction, and I felt so bad. Like, we're talking about one of the most expensive locations in London, and I've just got their doors open.
Did they complain? Or did they just
I don't know how I didn't get arrested. Seriously, we're talking about AC with no extraction, and it looked beautiful in the end. But
so you did some major masking up, I guess, right, of everything else.
Yeah. And that just ain't how you should work. No. Look, if you want to get sued, go use PU, go use AC. But like I said earlier, with AC, you've got to wait a month for that to cure before you put it in someone's house, because of the formaldehyde it's giving off. Are you going to let some little kids walk in there, a little baby, go in there when there's formaldehyde pouring off the substrate? No.
It's no good, is it? Okay.
No.
All right. Kestel, he's on Instagram, furniture maker. He says, I'd love to know about surface prep techniques to prevent grain raising. For example, the use of MDF sealers, shellac, or
Yeah.
any other prep secrets. Can I just briefly jump in with that? So when I started painting, not saying I'm an expert, I heard loads of people talking about MDF sealers. I personally never saw the point. I just put a good primer coat on. And I mean, this is back when I was using the Leyland, but I just sanded the edge a bit first, put the primer on nice and thick, denibbed that back. I never saw the need for an extra stage of some kind of special MDF thing. Interested to know what you think.
On edges of, if you're spraying water base onto a door, you don't need to do nothing on the edge. Like sometimes you'll see me using the fine filler on the edges. That's with PU. If it's a light colour, because I normally DA my edges back, like sand the edges with a sander back to get all the pitting out. With water base, what you remember is it's going into the board and popping out. So you don't need to do that on the edges. But on the front, this is what we were saying earlier. That's why I'll prep it to 180, then I'll prime. For the fact that, actually, I might not have even got into this. So
you did mention that. I think you might have even said 120.
Yeah, right. Look, people just need to go try it themselves. But from a technical point of view, if you're pumping them scratches, 120 or 180 scratches into the MDF, you're creating dashes and scratches into it. Yeah. So when you're putting that water base on and it swells, it's going to pop up them scratches that you've made instead of the fibre raising. So if you sanded it to 320, it's really smooth. You're going to see more fibre raising. When you sand it with a 120 or 180, you've created scratches. The surface is rough, but the water base will go on top, go sink underneath and pop them scratches out. So the scratches are being popped out instead of the fibre raising popping out, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So that's my theory with water base.
Do you mean you then, after the denib of that first coat, do you get a flatter finish then?
I personally think you do. And obviously with the Finzer board, again, it's... look, if you're doing water base, you just use that. It's just a lot easier. And try my method of a 180.
Yeah, and so to answer David's question, you wouldn't use an MDF sealer. You don't see any need for that.
Well, look, if you don't want no fibre raising, put a bit of AC on top of it. If you've got the ability to do that, but you might not have. So really, let's when we're talking about primers and all that, a water-based finish, if you're offering water-based, it should be a pure water-based system. So if you buy a good quality one like the Renner with the Renner 643 primer, and that works very well. It's what the Sayalaka do.
Yeah, all right. Right, so another question. Gary Schoen, don't know if I pronounced his name right. He says, I'm strongly considering partitioning off a dust-free zone and creating a spray booth as my brush and roller setup is very time-consuming. My question is whether Matt has any tips on touching up minor knocks and screw holes filled ECC when installing the furniture at a client's home. We've kind of touched on this.
Yeah.
And just to finish his question, is masking and spraying in their newly decorated and carpeted home with a portable sprayer really the only viable professional option for a decent finish? So we have touched on it. I think mainly that thing about minor knocks and screw holes, etc. Is there a way to deal with them without completely spraying the customer's home? That's all.
It's when you've got these very portable airless sprayers, it ain't that hard to just mask up an area and spray it in. Because it might be quicker to do that than trying to blend it in and touch it in. Look, if something's damaged,
so do you mean like, because sometimes I've had like a little countertop on a bedside unit, there's a chip on the corner, I think, what do I do? Do you mean you would mask up right to the edges of that flat surface? Like treat it as a board, masked up and respray that board in situ?
If it's like we said before, like if it's a say you've got a bedside table and there's a massive scratch on the top of the of the top of the top, you're gonna have to respray that. Either take it back to your place or you've got to respray it on site. Like I'd rather just take it back, but it all depends how far the client is away.
So I'm talking about. So I had a unit completely built in. This bedside top was built in. You could not take it out. The bookcase is above it, and there was a significant chip on the corner of that. What would you do there?
If there was a chip on the corner of it, like you could just tape up the surrounding areas of it and just use one of them little spray cans that you can put your paint in and spray it in.
How do you avoid getting a little bit of an edge where you've taped?
Take the tape off straight away and blend it in with your finger.
Oh, really? Just with your finger and it'll flatten back?
It'll just get rid of that bridge.
All right.
Or do
So
you know
don't
what's
get a
very
sharp
good
edge.
for water-based? Say, like a magic sponge. Have you heard of them?
No.
It's like a sponge. When you put this out, I'll post it up. It's like a white sponge, and it's very good at imitating like a sprayed texture finish. Like you spray it on there, and you dab that onto it, and it looks like a spray finish. It's so good. Like it's a good
try
hack.
that.
Yeah.
This has been a big pain point for me, how to touch those things up.
Right. So say if you out of your normal mask, you get a bit of moisture fall out onto your job. Have one of them little sponges handy. Dab it onto it, and then lick it with that the water base with that. It only works with water base, by the way, the sponge technique. And just dab it on there. It will look like loads of little bubbles, and then you spray over it again, and it will flow in 100% fine.
Right. Yeah, give us a link. I'll post things like this in the description.
It's a good hack.
Below. Nice one. Right, 6 questions to go. So, Wayne Brown, I'm a total newbie to spraying as I've never tried it. Could you ask Matt, as a maker, how much should I be charging to spray a project I've made for the clients?
Yeah.
And then let's just see. He talks about tip selection. I think we've covered it very well. He talks about what to look for when spraying water-based, and then what things have tripped you up in the past and how have you got round them to achieve the high level of finish. Yeah. Okay, so starting with charging, that is a big question. That'd be good to cover.
That's a very secretive question, but he's come to the right man. Do you know what I mean? But really, look, go on the internet. I put it up on my certified page the other week, so you'll know what the charges are. Look, if you're doing it yourself and you're making the furniture, you can charge really what you want, but the going rate, whether it's London or whatever, Manchester and stuff charge the same now as well. But it's really, if you're doing it to quite a high level, £45 a square metre if you're pricing it as a square metre. What you've got to remember is you've got to haggle. When you're getting your paints off paint suppliers like Symphony Coatings or Salak, sorry reps, but this is what you've got to do. You've got to play the game. They're playing a game with you. So you need to make sure you're getting the best prices you can. So I ain't going to go into my prices on there. And just because I'm doing interest rate on that, trust me, my prices, I don't get nothing. I don't really get any discount at all. So, look, they all cost money. They all go on to the job. And really, £45 a square metre. Really?
Yeah, that's good.
You might be able, if you're not experienced, 35, 25, something like that. But if you're making your own furniture, but it's a different ball game, really. But if you're as a spray business or something like that, it's £45 a square metre.
That's helpful. So that's just that figure. Is
and
very
prep don't come in. And prep don't come into that. Prep is anywhere between £35 a square metre, £35 an hour to £70 an hour.
Right. Okay. So that £45 per square metre, is that assuming somebody's delivered to you well sanded boards?
That should be ready for spraying. If I want to be a businessman, that's how it should be. You might have to really look. You shouldn't even have to be sanding over it. It should be going straight into the spray booth. Look, and this is coming from a guy that done prep for free. All that hard work that people see, that was for free. It's only now I've just started charging prep. And I still don't know. You can't, there's only a limit to what you can charge for something. But if the prep, it just took me, there was 8 doors here that I'm looking at, and it took me nearly 3 days to do 8 doors to prep them to my standard. Wow. And that should have been done, but that's because it's through mine and Dad's company. But if it was someone else, are you really going to pay, let's just say £50 an hour times, let's just say 9 times 3? You need to make sure that prep is on the ball. Otherwise, you're going to get stung. Yeah.
Okay. Wayne, I hope your other questions are well enough answered in the discussion we've had so far. I think they are, really. So moving on to Chris Davison from Sharp Edge Woodworking. He says, I spray my stuff with an HVLP turbine, which is the only setup I have any experience of since I moved into spraying. His main question, though, he says, I'd like to ask about your final top coat. Do you leave it finished off the gun, or do you denib and smooth it with an abrasive? Please discuss.
What?
So I think the issue, I mean, I'm sure you don't. I think the issue here is a lot of people, when they've got an imperfect setup, they're just spraying in their workshop. You cannot get that nib-free finish So it's always tempting to think, can I just polish it back somehow? Can that ever be acceptable?
I think, is he talking about, right, if I've got an imperfection, I need to start rubbing it over with a 3000 Abralon Merca wet?
I think he is wondering about that sort of thing. Because it's a mess then, isn't it, with sheen levels?
Yeah, look, we've all been there when we thought to do that. And look, if there's a nib that's, look, can I say something? No one stuff's perfect. Like, if it ain't in eye level, it's okay. Remember where it's going.
I think you're right to say that. Yeah, I've got away with things where something's at the far side of the room, away from the window, and you never see any glancing light across it. Yeah. I've had bits where I've effectively just polished it back. Maybe had to fill in a defect with a bit of hand paint, smoothed it back, and it looks fine. But then I've done that. I once did that on a long worktop where
I know
as
what
you come into the room, you're looking. No, I think there's another one. There's loads of ones. I messed up. I think this one, you were looking across this long worktop, and the window was the other side, and it was a sheen level issue.
Yeah.
So you could touch it. I think it was smooth. You could look at it in direct light, but as the light bounced across it, the bit that I'd flattened off by some means, and I think I was using incredibly fine sandpaper, like tens of thousands of grit. It was polished, but the rest was a low sheen. And that's the issue that I found I can't get over.
We're not French polishers, man. Yeah, that's a whole nother skill on its own. Look, and with this is a little tip as well. People know, like, I take my backs up. When you spray them edges, you're going to get a touch of a bridge occasionally, and what I'll do there is I'll have a 1,200.
You're talking about so you mask up your back.
I mask up my back to stop the overspray going on it.
The bridge means that little sharp line between a painted coat and where it's been masked.
I don't get much of it, but what you do is you pull your tape off. You put the masking on the backs to stop overspray getting on it. Why you got? I don't like. That's just the professional way to do it.
Yeah.
When you pull that off, you're going to get a little bridge of paint.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll get a 1,200 disc that I'll use for my high gloss polishing, put it on a flat block, and I'll just block and sand that line in with a 1,200. Then I'll use sometimes my t-shirt, and because it'll make it very matte. Then I'll use my t-shirt and rub it in, and it shines it back up again. Well, what it needs to be.
But you can get away with that, can't you? Because you're working on that.
You would never know. You will never.
Yeah, but if you were doing that process on a flat surface where you can see on the same plane,
you'll see it.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Look, if you damage something and it's in a place where it's very visible, like, don't even try and do it. It's a respray. You could be mucking around for it forever.
Yes, and it'll actually be quicker to respray it, won't it?
Look, sometimes I am the artful bodger. I've done crazy things. I'm talking about using dirt off the floor to blend things. Do you know what I mean?
There are ways to do it, and I think something you have to learn as a professional is there is a time and a place for a bodge that will be acceptable out of sight, the back of a door, bottom corner of a door on the inside, or something like that. To me, my conclusion is sometimes you're serving the customer better by just getting that done on time, than obsessing over it looking perfect when nobody's going to see it.
Other day, there was I probably shouldn't even say it, but there was a job I was doing. It was a stain job, and there was something wrong with it. Like, I might have used a tack cloth and it ripped a bit of veneer away or something like that. Just a little bit. So then I filled it and the stain wasn't attaching itself to it. So it was looking like a patch. All I done was, I was thinking, what's a good colour that matches this part of the veneer that's been stained? I was thinking, oh my God, because I don't have all the stuff. I don't have all the
You can get sets of touch-up pens, can't you? With infinite colours and waxes and things.
I see a bit of MDF dust on my filler, my Morel's Fine filler, just chilling on the top of the lid. I thought, you know what, that'll work. I got a bit of lacquer, stuck my finger in it, and plonked the MDF dust and lacquer onto the bit, bladed it off, and it was perfect, because then the stain attached itself to it. Just worked.
Had a bit of wood fibres. It literally
just worked so good.
with wood grain, you can get away with a lot, can't you? Because it's not perfect anyway.
Yeah, you can get away with absolute murder with that stuff.
So, question from Alan: what's your biggest screw up, and what did you learn from it?
Well, can I say something? I've made every mistake under the sun. That's why when people ask me for help with issues with pain, etc., I am the man to ask. Like I make every mistake. When I went over to PU, when you're only human, and I wasted about 7 kg of primer because I mixed it up too much. Just by having the tins around me that shouldn't have been there. So I'll put the hardener in the tin that I shouldn't have put the hardener, like stuff like that. And that's recently. Look, whenever I go to a new system, ask my rep, Owen Wiley, like he is a mall. Do you know what I mean? And he's probably loving it because the amount of money he's making off me when I'm ruining the paint. But can I say the biggest one, ain't even spraying, is business related.
Okay.
You have to run your business properly. Make sure you're sending the deposits out. Get 50% deposit. Yeah. Make sure it's all legit. Don't run your business properly, because my whole thing has been cash flow issues, and I work minimum 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes more. But and at the moment I'm currently wearing 2 odd trainers, and not really a pot to piss in, because I haven't run the business properly. So it looks like, all right, through the whole of Corona, I've been working. I haven't actually had 1 day off. I'm very lucky. But there's been times when I've earned very, very good money, and there's been times where I haven't. And that's all my own fault. Run your business.
People don't know from the outside. People always, I think, assume things. I get a lot of this. People assume success, but actually you're paddling pretty hard beneath the surface, and it's not always going as well as it looks.
Interspray has cost me about 40-50 grand.
Yeah?
Yeah. And that there is no BS. Because what I done last year, when I analyse it, I was trying, different paint companies would be sending me paint. So I'll be trying it. That's time. I was mucking around trying to make concoctions of, instead of using cork, using different things to fill up the lines in MDF, in Shaker MDF, just mucking around. And
because you were doing this
for social media,
you felt obliged to experiment and explain, and that was costing you time.
But now, and investment, I was invested in pumps, and I will reap the benefits now, because I know, right, I like my Renner PU. I like my, I just love Renner. It just, the paint does the job. They don't, this is what people don't understand. So that's why I get so touchy when they disrespect Intersprayers or whatever. They don't know that I could have been making money off a certain brand. I could have been earning, at least 10 to 15% on every single tin.
Yeah, you mentioned this to me before. It was a brand that wanted to sponsor you, but you couldn't put your name to the quality.
It just wasn't. Right? It just was not good enough. And if Renner come to me and said, "Look, we'll do this for you," do you know what? I don't think I even would, because when I accept a deal or something like that, Intersprays is dead. Because I won't be able to swear, do whatever I want.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, and we didn't want to let this subject dominate our chat, and we won't. But just to say, the model of subscribers paying for content is so full of integrity, because, I mean, you've got to get paid for your work. I don't know why anybody debates that. If you're going to work hard, losing money because you can't work on your main business, why shouldn't you get paid for it?
What's the difference between us doing it and a spray school?
Well, or a college or university.
Yeah, no, there's nothing.
Anyway, let's not get bogged down in that, because for me, that's a given. For me, that's obvious. But if you're going to get paid, what better way than to be paid by the people that you're serving? Because the alternative is putting ads in front of people, or being in the pocket of a company who's always going to have an agenda. And it's like with me, I'm free to say that the Black Core Finzer MDF with the melamine that they gave me, which I'm really grateful for, is the crappiest MDF I've almost ever used because I don't have an obligation to them. And the reason they gave it to me is because they I don't know how much they made, but they would have made a ton of money from me.
You blew up that product. You blew it up.
Oh, it's mad. And it wasn't planned. And it was all the better for that because it was me genuinely saying, I found a product which is really good. And so I will say that if it's good, and you're the same. I'll say if a product's good, I'll say it. If it's not good, I won't. And because I'm not in anybody's pocket, I'm free to say that. And then the people that want to support me through whatever platform, there's an integrity to it.
Yeah, and there's a respect. But as a thing, you're going to be the same as me. We're both real. I nearly got sucked into it. I nearly got sucked into this big company going, oh, yeah. They would have taken over Insta Sprayers. Yeah. Not saying that Insta Sprayers is this thing, it's the same. No, but it's a guy that I ain't claiming to be the best. I do very good work because I do stuff by the book and I put serious hard work in. But look, you're watching a young man go through his struggles with the spraying and enjoying it. But if a company got involved, it will ruin it. And I don't care who they are. With a lot of people promote on Instagram. I have a Renner hat on right now. It was given to me by my paint rep. It's a nice, comfortable hat. Right. I would wear a Peppa Pig hat. I don't care what I wear. But I do love Renner products. But now, I have Symphony Coatings tins everywhere in my booth. They're not placed there. If I could cover them all up, I would. I'm with Symphony Coatings because I really like my rep. He is the best. But as a company, do I respect them? A bit, because during coronavirus, they got my paint on time. But they've never showed me any love. Merca, they're Goliaths in the industry. They ain't going to care about me. So I ain't going to care about them promoting their stuff. I put up me using the sander. But that ain't me going, oh, Merca, please sponsor me. No, I don't care. Look, I earn my money through my job, and I've started doing a thing with the certified, and it was a big thing for me to start that. Look, I ain't a ponce either.
Let's leave it at that. We've got three more questions to get through. About that subject. So where are we? Right, 3 questions to go. So Mike says, would like to know your suggested strategy for spraying pre-built or built-in furniture. For example, if you had a big 2.5 meter tall by 5 meter wide bookcase with a big grid of shelves, how would you spray that? So he says bottom to top in columns, top to bottom, boxes first, in front edges face, all at once, masking sections off.
Right. So if you're like a beginner or something, or someone that hasn't been spraying for like 16 years. Even I would struggle to spray something like that, you know?
Yeah. Getting into those boxes, right?
Yeah. You want to make sure if you're probably going to be using airless or something like that, or your or your turbine system. You want to make sure you've had your brown and you've checked your fan pattern first. And then you're going to want to do, I've sort of changed the way I spray now as well. With water-based, no, because it's PU, but if it's water-based, it stays wetter longer. So you can... I would do all of the inside first, then hit the frame after with water-based because it stays wet. With that overspray that's going into them areas is going to flow back into the paint. When you're using airless...
I've never even tried spraying into box because I've just always assumed from things I've heard that you'd never get a good finish because that overspray, because it's not getting sucked away, you're in a contained box.
But if you're using airless, that's why you want to use an airless because it's fast. It's faster. Right. And you're going to keep the finish wet, so the droplets are a bit bigger. So they're going to stay wetter longer.
So you can get a good finish spraying into boxes like that.
Yeah. With water-based, 100%. You'll get a better finish with water-based on stuff like that.
Okay. 100%. The denebbing must be a nightmare, though, right? You see, I wouldn't ever choose to do that because if I can spray a flat board, just run the sander over it without butting up against a corner.
Yeah.
It's going to be quicker on balance to pre-spray and then assemble.
Yeah, look, as I say, and if you're charging, this is where like on-site spraying. If that was in the booth, you're paying fortunes because you've got it all in one piece. You're paying a lot more money.
Okay.
And it ain't easy. It ain't easy.
Right.
It's heavy.
So,
it needs a few people to lift it. That's if it's in the book.
As a sprayer, if someone comes to you with a pre-assembled bookcase to spray, you're going to charge
money.
more for that than all the components separately.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
and the finish won't be as good. If I'm talking about doing it in my PU thing, it won't be as good.
Yeah,
because you've got to keep.
I mean, that must be I would imagine you'd hate that job if you're denibbing between coats into corners. That must be a horrible job.
Yeah, but like what I like to do is as this is my first interview, I like to give little tips away. But make sure you've got a Stanley blade ready. Use your Stanley blade and go in there and knock the heads off the bits. And then you could just go around with your soft paper and it'll be fine.
Are you talking about you hold the blades, let's say, perpendicular to the surface, so it's standing up, and then you do scrape it across? Or are you saying you lay it flat and you slice?
Like when I say, it's the same as when I'm checking for glue on an MDF board from assembly. I'll run a Stanley blade. What I do is I have a dead 500 or 320 disc, run the blade across that so it ain't 100% sharp, and then I'll run it the flat edge of the blade across the whole board. And if you hear a donk, you cut that off, put a little bit of filler there because it'll rip some of the MDF off. And that's the best way. You don't want to be putting primer on something that's got glue underneath it, because then you've got to sand it back down again.
Right. Okay. So it's quicker to slice it off.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Slice it off and put a bit of wax there or a bit of filler, sand over it, and it's perfect.
Because sanding, I think you've touched on this before, like with the metal, if you've got a blob of glue that's harder than the MDF, right? If you sand that off, you're going to actually shape the MDF either side of it before it disappears. Yeah,
because it's soft. That glue needs to be cut off. It needs to be cut off. And to me, prep needs to be done 99 to 100%. Then you prime, like lock all that stuff in. Look, if there's a shaker joint, I feel it, because there's going to be a little pin bit from where the glue has. Do you know what I mean? Like, I do one with my PUs, and I ain't afraid of saying it. I do one prime and one top coat, and that's all the door's getting. And that's all the door needs.
Mm-hmm.
Water-based,
but that's with very careful prep.
Oh,
and when you're filling those little lines in the shaker recess, that's with cork, just normal decorator's cork, is it?
Yeah, Wicks 90p when you get trade discount.
Oh, really? Oh, so nothing fancy.
What you want to do is don't use it on big holes because it will crack. But them little lines we're talking about there. I'm not telling my corking technique through this, but the other tip I like to do with the cork is squidge the end with either some pliers or your teeth, so it makes it a little oval,
like
looking,
a flat.
Yeah, more flat, and you see how good the cork comes out then.
So you're just directing it into that crack.
Yeah,
good one. Okay, right, we're on the home straight. We've got two questions here. So it just says at Wild Iris Trim, I think. It says, thoughts on spraying doors vertically with a hanger system versus horizontally on a turntable? Yeah,
like look, again, where I'm it all depends what kind of price you're getting and what I've sprayed stuff hanging it from the hinge holes and hanging them with just wire that I've stripped out of some 3-phase cable or whatever. So, but you put the little screws in, you've done them up, then you hit, the doors come off. Like, it's falling on the floor. Like, I ain't going down that route again. And the finish ain't to my standard. Like, what people will remember is, people will get, but some people are nasty about my fret. And look, you have to, I'll send you a sample, so it'll be quite funny, so you can see my finishes, so then you can sort of understand the level that I'm going to. When you're spraying up straight, you're going to get more of an orange peel finish because you don't want it to drip, and you're not getting a nice amount.
Is that right? When it's hanging vertically, you're more likely to get an orange peel finish.
Yeah, because you can't drip it. Imagine how nice finish you can get by spraying it flat.
Right, because you can put it on thicker and it will.
Yeah, and like again, you get that bit in it. You ain't going to be able to lap that over, spraying it vertical.
Okay.
You're going to drip it. If you've got it down low, you're gonna on a flat. If you see that bit, flood, boom, crack on with the next, and you've got a better finish. You've got a flat finish.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's no way around overspray either. Like really, you have to take the backup. With water based, it's a little bit better, but with PU, a solvent, you need to take the backup, I believe.
Interesting. See, I'd always wanted to try the hanging method because I thought that's the proper pro way. I've seen some people do it, mainly in America.
Don't tell Christian that.
Okay. What was that?
No, like look, we are two people that are on it. Spraying is our life, and we only want to produce perfection. So flat
sounded like a bit of a dig, like because I've seen you. I'm talking before I even knew about you, before I was even on Instagram. I was dabbling with spraying. I would see people in America hanging from these special hinge cup things, and I thought that makes so much sense because you don't have to spin the door. I thought if I can get that set up,
it's wicked because you've got more racking space, everything.
Yeah, because you can spray the whole thing in one and you're done. That's what I thought.
Look, do you know what?
It's not as simple as that.
I'm a bit wrong here, actually. Right. So if you're respraying a kitchen, and it's already had paint on it, it's just they're just wrapped or something. You're just respraying them. Spraying it like that is 100% fine. You know.
Okay.
It all depends how much you're getting. And yeah, it's okay to do it like that. Don't look. Who am I to judge? Someone might be able to get. Look, I'm pretty sure you can still get a really good finish like that. The car guys get a good finish and they're spraying vertically. So again, I think I've actually come across quite wrong there. If you want to do that and it works for you, then that's 100% fine.
Well, I think what you said is helpful because it never occurred to me that it's harder to get a flatter finish that way.
Yeah,
because it's hanging.
But there probably is people that can do it. You just need to know how to set your gun up properly and that.
Yeah, well, like everything, it's so many variables.
Water base is going to give you the flattest finish alive over any solvent because it just flows. And one thing I want to say for the people, when you're spraying your water base on, leave it orange peely. It needs to look wet, but leave it orange peely. Come back to it in 5 minutes and it'll flow out. That's with me using Renner. You don't want to go for gold and have it looking like inverted commas glass straight away off the gun. You put too much paint on there.
Oh, I see.
And use a micron gauge.
It's better if it's orange peely because then it will flow out.
It'll flow out, yeah. And use a micron gauge to know how much paint you're putting on at first. And then once you've got your muscle memory, you'll know how much paint you're putting on anyway.
Yeah. Okay, last question from Darren Green. That's Huddersfield Handyman on Instagram. I think we've covered this. He just says best starter setup, HVLP versus ALS. We've covered that. GXFF, right?
Yeah, do you know what? From my personal opinion, someone needs to. I'll try someone's turbine and then I'll come back to them because I think I've been a bit out of order on it. Really, I think I need to try it first. It'd be wrong for me to say they're crap because they must be good. But for me, the Graco. You just plonk it in the machine and it sprays and it's soft and does the job.
Great. Okay, I think I might have got a couple of other questions I can't find. So for these podcasts, anybody listening, wondering how you get to ask questions, it is on the member site. If I just threw it open on Instagram, I couldn't possibly filter all the questions. I'll put links below to both mine and Matt's sites if you want to know more from either of us. But I think we've answered so many questions.
Yeah,
there's information here to keep people going for ages. They're just getting started with spraying. I just remembered. Now I really need to go to work. I'm sure you do, but I just remembered. I really wanted to briefly touch on. So we've got this massive new spray booth.
Yeah.
There's a story behind this I won't go into. We found ourselves with a new unit with a huge spray booth already in situ, and the landlord basically didn't charge us for it.
Wow.
So we've created an enclosure. We've made a ton of mistakes. I mean, I've been tearing my hair out at times thinking we've just done it all wrong and we're never going to deal with dust. Anyway, somehow we've managed to enclose it. I think it's basically working. Our secret weapon, our key ingredient to making this thing work with water-based, because we've decided to go 100% water-based, is a gas catalytic infrared heater.
The best you can get.
For this company called Schubert's. Now, I had a few teething problems with it, which I shared on my member site. Actually, I think we got over that. Do you know much about them? Do you think, because you've talked about, you don't hate water based, but
No,
it's not your
no. Do
first
you know what?
choice.
I ain't set
But
up
if
for water based.
yeah, I was
You
going
all
to
have a
say,
better setup than me.
yeah, is this the secret key ingredient that I think it is that's going to
Yeah,
make water based work for me through the winter?
yeah. I think 100%. That's what all the professionals do. If you've got
Yeah,
that, then you're into it seriously. So you're doing it 100% right. What have I
yeah,
got in my booth? I've got a one panel heater. That's it.
yeah.
But the guy
Well,
next
this
door keeps his heating on, and it's always warm in there. But that's what you need. What you bought.
yeah. It's because that's the big downside of water based, right? Is it's much more sensitive to cold and moisture in the air.
Let's just
That's
say
one of
when you start using that with the Fincer board, you'll be flying.
Yeah, well, I think so because we have before we had these glitches with it, we got a few things through the booth, and it was so good, really, with the Finster board, and so much less work. And
Yeah,
the thing with this technology is it's infrared heat. Now, people that follow me, they'll have seen I've got in my old workshop,
yeah,
I had these two infrared heaters, and people always ask me this. They were from a company called SunSwitch. I think it's sunswitch.com, and the brand of heater was Varma, VARMA. That's what I used. That's shortwave infrared. It glows red. You see it, you feel it really
yeah.
hot. This gas catalytic panel, it doesn't look, it doesn't glow, and it doesn't feel as hot as I thought. It's long wave infrared, and it's a chemical reaction between the gas from the butane bottle and platinum. It's one reason why it's costing around £3,000.
Yeah.
But this thing, it kicks out long wave infrared, and what it does is it's like it gets into the body of the board and it heats the paint from the inside out. That's what they're telling me.
And that's what you want
And
with water base.
yeah, and it's reducing the grain raising because it's baking it off
Yeah.
almost before the fibers swell.
Yeah.
Then the paint's drying quicker, which means there's less time for crap to fall on it, and it's curing it to a harder level quicker. So if people listening to this are interested, follow me. I'll put stuff up about it on
Very
Instagram
interesting.
and
I'll be
YouTube.
interested in that too.
All right, yeah, I'll be sharing it because I am hoping it's going to be a game changer.
Well, from what I know from other people that have got them, it is. And that's why, I say people, look, I love water based and hate water based, but what I say to people is that I ain't really set up for water based to get it to the standard that I am with my PU. And that's the truth. That's is something I'll work on when I move out of this place. But for now, I'll be leaving it up to you.
Yeah, well, I'll keep you updated. We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt. Great talking to you.
Cheers for that, man.
Yeah, and I'll see you on Instagram.
Yeah, cool, man. Talk to you later.